Hi, everyone. Welcome to REDCap Tips and Tricks. We're going to take a look at the bulk record delete feature. So bulk record delete is a feature that allows you to delete records in batches. So previous to this feature being rolled out, if you wanted to delete record data from REDCap, you had to go one record at a time and delete it manually. So the bulk record delete feature now lets you delete both multiple records, or you can, delete the same instrument for multiple records. And this makes life easier, especially when you have a data import error. Data import errors can allow you to create so many erroneous records at the same time. And so bulk record delete is a way of addressing that. So there are actually two ways of accessing bulk record delete. So one of them is under other functionality. If you have project design privileges, you can access bulk record delete here under data management. But for most people, you're going to access it through the record status dashboard. So this is accessible to people who don't have design privileges. And here under this multi-record actions dropdown, that's where you access bulk record delete. And so here you can see you've got a few options. It does remind you all deletions are going to be permanent and irreversible. So I highly recommend checking your work before you start deleting. But there are a few different ways that you can approach this. So the first toggle is whether you want to delete entire records or if you want to just delete certain instruments. So I could either, delete records. I could delete records 6 and 7, or I could just partially delete from them and say, okay, I want to get rid of all the data on that treatment outcomes form. And then as far as how I supply the records, so I can enter a list of records. This is great for, bringing stuff in from a spreadsheet. I can also select records from this list. So this is a list of all the records that currently exist in my project, and I can choose them like that. I'm going to delete the entirety of records 6 and 7. It does give you the option to delete using a background process, and that's very helpful if you've got a ton of records to delete. I'm only deleting 2, so I'm not going to use the background process. So now if I go to my record status dashboard, you can see records 6 and 7 are gone. I can also show you what deleting partial information looks like. So I'm going to select records from the list again. But let's delete labs and treatment outcomes for record 5. So again, I have to confirm it by typing delete. And now record 5 does not have those forms anymore. The information has been deleted. And there are some requirements for working with bulk record delete. So you need to have certain user rights depending on what you would need to delete. So if someone is going to potentially delete entire records, then in their user rights, they would need to have this delete records toggled. So this would allow them to delete either the whole record or any instruments within the record. Versus if you wanted to just give people the ability to delete certain forms, like let's say I don't want participant information deleted, but we can delete some labs or some medical history. Someone who had deletion rights only for certain forms would only be able to delete those forms under bulk record delete, but they would still be able to delete them from multiple records at the same time. And then, tips and tricks, best practices. I do recommend discussing deletion practices with your study team early on, because that deletion is permanent. It can't be fixed once it's gone. So it's worth a discussion about when and why would you want to delete records. Do you ever want to delete records in this project? Is there documentation that you should maintain when a record is deleted? So, maybe if I'm deleting just medical history and lab forms, I want to have a comment box on participant information to explain what happened. Maybe I have notes to files somewhere. But depending on the type of project, there might be documentation that you need to maintain when deleting records so that you can explain down the road why this record was deleted. And then there's the question of who should delete the records. So if I go into the logging for my REDCap project, I do have a record of the deletion, and I have a record of who deleted it and when. And so that might be a conversation that comes up down the road, is who deleted this And should they have been, are they the right person to have deleted it? So it might be that you only want your data manager deleting records. It might be that you only want your investigator deleting records. Maybe it's the person who's working with that patient. But that's an important conversation, again, to have early on, is who gets to delete things and when and why.